Train a dog to back up. Start with luring the dog with the treat under his chin and close to his chest. As he looks down at the food, move your hand toward his chest. This should cause him to move backward. Click and treat when the dog touches the mat with his hind paws. In my opinion, to get the dog backing away from you and adding distance, it is much better to teach the dog to target an item with his hind paws. Increasing the distance at which the dog backs away from the handler. Keep the mat in one spot. Once the dog understands to back up until his hind paws touch the mat, you can move the dog slightly further from the mat. Add the verbal cue back or reverse as long as the dog is reliably doing the behavior of backing up. Keep increasing the distance the dog is away from the mat. To teach the dog to back up and stay on the mat, make sure you reward the dog in position on the mat. The handler should move to the dog to deliver the reward. Increase the distance. Using the verbal cue to put the behavior on a new visual cue. My visual cue is for Twix to back up as I move backwards. I am starting with a march in place. I start to march, and if Twix does not back up, then I will say back up. When he backs up, I click and treat. I will continue this process until he sees me march in place and backs up right away. Back up. Now that Twix knows that when I march in place he is to back up, I will actually start marching backward myself. I am tossing food back to the mat to keep him from moving toward me. The next step would be to remove the mat. Twix can already back up at a distance while I march backward without the mat. I just forgot to videotape that step. Once the dog understands the cue, either verbal or visual, you can remove the mat. However, if you are still working on more distance, then I would suggest to keep using the mat. If the mat is there for the dog to target, the backup will be straighter. If you remove the mat too quickly, the dog usually starts to veer to one side or the other. Training tips. Go at the dog's pace. It could take days to weeks to train a dog to back up at a distance. Do not skip steps. If the dog is great at backing up 5 steps, do not expect him to know how to back up for 10 steps, especially if you have not practiced 6, 7, 8, and 9 steps. Have patience and have fun.